Welcome back to the Make a Baby podcast. This is a very special episode. I am with my friend Lisa White. I'm Carolina, your Reiki Master Womb Healer, and we are going to be chatting about all things about IVF and Reiki. Lisa is my twin. We share a birthday. We're doing a podcast swap. I was on her podcast. She is now here with us. She also does Reiki for fertility, and she helps women going through IVF. And I think it's a really important conversation to have a guest like Lisa because one, she's spiritual and she does Reiki. So I think that's amazing. But you also have so many things in common. And I really love her energy. And I know you're going to be super impacted because I was blown away with just my interactions and conversations with her. This is the second time we're trying to do this episode. So we're going to be successful here on Zoom. Our original platform did not work, but maybe the second time is a charm. So Lisa, thanks so much for being here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. This is such a joy.
So when we met for Zoom and we connected, you lived in Omaha for a short time. You went to college here, right?
I
And I live in
did.
Omaha.
I went to occupational therapy school there at Creighton. So when you told me you were from Omaha, I'm like, I know Omaha. Somewhere in the middle of America. Counting crows.
I had a question. When you went to OT school, did you drink scooters? Did they have scooters back then?
They have them here in Colorado. I don't remember having them in Omaha.
Do you like Scooters coffee?
I don't know that much about them. I think I've had maybe one, but I need to try them more. I need to try them more.
They have these little drive-through.
Yeah.
So they're everywhere. They're all the rage. It's quite like, so if you're from Omaha, like, are you just some people are Scooters people, but only for their food and smoothies and not for their coffee. And some people are diehard coffee and they like don't like Starbucks. So I got my birthday drink.
Nice.
Today. It's not my birthday. Today is May 8th, but they give you a birthday drink. And I was like, what can you give me that's non-dairy?
I love it. I will have to go back.
I'll have to go back. So enough about my coffee. So can you give us a little, like, what do you do and who do you serve? Give us a little bit of your story. Let's dive in deep.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I'm based in Colorado, a native here. And I wanted to go into the health field starting out in college and thought occupational therapy was going to be my career forever, really. But after I was doing it for about 20 something years and was confronted with our fertility challenges and decided, wow, I went through all of the challenges we went through for a reason. I feel very blessed to have the foundation and the background I did in this holistic health profession and kind of navigated through starting a business and becoming a fertility coach that I never anticipated becoming. And oftentimes it's our stories and our struggles that kind of lead us. And when we're just being open and being led, I'm really grateful for the path that has unfolded. And so, yes, I did navigate through IVF. We had one healthy embryo after 2 egg retrievals, a lot of setbacks, a lot of surgeries, which many understand on this path. It's pretty naive going through it. But again, I just stayed really hopeful and empowered with an optimistic kind of mindset, which I can talk about more in my miracle mindset. But I really just am so grateful for the tools that did really support me to get through and felt a calling to step into helping others through this really emotionally draining path, really to help inspire, to show what's possible, to be a voice, to be a light in this kind of dark space. Often, it's just not often an enjoyable path. Yet I chose to find the joy in this. I chose to welcome kind of what was in front of me and navigate it the best way I could. And so, yes, I did step into this and felt a calling to support other women who are navigating this path and provide coaching support and programs. And I mean, the book, the podcast, all of it started really from just this call to put this out there to support others because I didn't see the book, right, that I wished I'd had. I didn't see really this podcast on Soulful IVF, which I started a year ago. All of it, has really come from such a really challenging path. And I'm really grateful and leading me to people like you, we would not be here if we hadn't started these businesses and really felt this calling to help others through this path. So I'm honored to be here.
I am so grateful for your story. I do believe like fertility workers, birth workers, that people do not get into the space without having lived through or watched someone around them go through something big. And most of the time, unfortunately, it's not something that is not without suffering.
Mhm.
So for me, when I first started my Reiki journey, I would say it was more about postpartum healing.
Mm.
And then when I was working with a business slash life coach, and she's like, write all of your stories. Start with postpartum because that was the one that I was like really like passionate about at the beginning. And then it evolved was like, wait a minute, my Reiki story is not really postpartum, it's fertility
Mm.
through postpartum.
Yeah.
So
Powerful.
yeah. So how long did it take you like to conceive? Because I know our children are close in age.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to like to conceive? How long were you like from the time you were trying
I
it?
met my husband in my mid 30s and we got married, I was what, 37? We were trying for about a year and a half. And friends suggested you might want to check out and get some testing done. You're getting older and my husband's 7 years older than me. So it was like, okay, let's get on this, right? Like,
Oh,
so
so it was very eminent. Like you're like, I have to do this now.
kind of. I mean, but I wasn't like overly stressed about it. I just always knew in my heart I was going to be a mom. Like I knew that intuitively. I'm
I
like,
love that.
somehow, some way, I'm going to be a mom. But it's funny how like, I didn't think about my age and I've always thought I was just pretty young, but like, yeah, I mean, age is a real thing. So
It's
37,
true.
getting married, and then like 38, I had my daughter at 40. She's 6.5. You have a what, 7-year-old? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ollie and Olivia,
Yeah.
how cute. So it's,
He came home yesterday. He's like, just call me Oliver. That's my
oh,
chef's name. He wants to be a chef now this week.
oh,
Told me he
cute.
wants to move to Paris to become a chef.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Just call me Oliver.
Very cute.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm grateful. I mean, we had some male factor challenges, which isn't always talked about, but
Yeah.
a real thing too. So I also knew I had polyps that needed to be taken out. Those were the two forms of information right from the get-go that we got, that we needed IVF, that IUI was not recommended for us because of some of the male factor challenges. So we just navigated down that path. And again, like didn't know what we were getting into. And, you think it's just all going to be pretty smooth sailing. And I just had no idea our first whole year was going to be just like setback after setback after setback. And learning how to ride the wave, that is really the test. Learning to ride the wave. And I talk about that a lot because fertility challenges, I mean, I always say they challenge you and they test you, but they will transform you. And I am transformed in an even better way from what I went through. The
I like
pain, the loss.
the pain, the loss is very real. I sometimes say that like a lot of women are fertility or infertility is your spiritual awakening or the start of one or
Mm.
the renewal or
Mm.
deepening of your spirituality. And for me, when I've seen people who are transformed or they go deeper into their faith or
Mm.
they deepen their trust within themselves, like all of that deep work,
Yeah.
for me, when I've experienced my spiritual awakening, it was in direct relation to my dad's passing.
Mm.
So for me, it was like, oh, I start to see like the awakenings of people, their spiritual awakenings. And I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of it come from the infertility and
Mm.
the struggles, like as they're moving through it. And they, like you said, you're learning to ride the waves.
Mm-hmm.
Not very much through also, you're riding the waves because you're also learning to heal and navigate better
Yeah.
the ups and downs because life's still going to happen, and no matter what you're healing through your fertility journey, there's no guarantees. And I think that that's like says really fun. I didn't expect this corner.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it.
I think a big misconception is like because I do spirit baby messages and a lot of the things I do is very woo, but there is just like a basis of that no matter how much you heal, it doesn't prevent life events from happening. What the healing does is it gives you a different perspective
Mm.
and more tools to move and navigate those life events with more grace, with a pause. I like to say, eagle's view versus ant's view. Like
Mm-hmm.
you heal, you get to see that you have more options or more choices to navigate or decisions you can make versus when I was less healed, I saw like it's either this one option or nothing at all.
Mm.
And I think that is a good point if you are trying to navigate your fertility journey and you feel like, when is this going to happen? Or I don't know what to do next. Sometimes, like I always say, take aligned action that feels good and you feel empowered. Don't make decisions from fear. Otherwise, just wait, sit, keep seeking, ask, and
Yeah.
go back inward because
Yeah.
that's a choice.
There's gifts in the pause. And just to go back to what you said, I wholeheartedly agree. It's a deepening into learning about oneself, what you're capable of, like what your strengths, you know, these lows, I believe they do teach us so much to better bounce back, to better ride the highs. And I like to call like my fertility challenges have become like a superpower, really. I mean, looking at like, and I don't like the word infertility, but reframing it to be like, I'm a badass. Like I'm what I've overcome. And at the same time, and you know this story, but for those who don't, I was also navigating seeing my mom's health decline and
This
her
is
in and
very,
out of the hospital as I was striving to become a mom. And really that fueled me to like, wow, if I can get through all of that, like I can get through anything. And
can you tell
it,
that story in full?
you know, where do I begin with this? I mean, so I'm an only child. My mom and I were always really close. And thankfully, my dad's still here and he's now 81. But my mom passed 5.5 years ago. For many years, she had a longstanding respiratory condition. They found out she had bronchiectasis, hardening of the lungs, like a lot of coughing, just coughing, difficulty breathing. She got on oxygen probably, I'm trying to remember how many years. Felt like the last 7 years, 8 years of her life. I mean, she was on oxygen for a long time and that kept like increasing. And it was just the hardest thing to watch because, you know, it's your mom and her attitude for life really impacted me. She always told me there's things we can't control, but we can control how we react. And the way, I hope I have tissues nearby because I always get on these podcast calls and I'm like, I never know where it's going to go, but it still tears me up because her strength like really gave me so much to be able to navigate through IVF. And it was a grind for her for years, for years, for years. So watching her going through therapy, I mean, and I'll share this. I mean, this was a real hard moment when I was working as an occupational therapist in a skilled nursing, a rehab facility. And when my mom needed to go through some therapy, I told her, come to this facility. I was doing PRN in different places. But to see your mom in that facility and walking down the hall and working on strength and, you know, that's something I'll never forget. And I think in that moment, she recognized, wow, I really appreciate this work you do, the kind of heart you have to do this, to help people. And she saw it firsthand, you know. I don't know, I'm getting emotional. It was just like
It's
a
okay to be
moment
emotional.
and her ability to keep moving forward and being in and out of the hospital, seeing her
You want to
in
pause for a
those
moment?
final, yeah.
Let's just pause for a moment and just recognize like your mom was really proud of you in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just receive that. Just take a breath for a second. Moms are so special.
Yeah. I mean, she never really got to see all that has come through all that I've created. I mean, I just told her about my heart for wanting to step into helping women through this path before she passed. But I started writing my book just months after she passed. She passed in August of 18. I wrote my book in 2019. I dedicated it to, you know, in memory of her. But her light, her ability to take in the full breaths of life, which I've made part of my program to help other women. It's like really living life fully, despite challenges, despite heartbreak, and her attitude of always moving forward. It's like she accepted what was. And that's kind of like that helped me too through IVF. It's like I couldn't change. You know, this was the path laid before us, how we were going to navigate trying to become parents. And I was open to that. I was receptive to that. And so her teachings like still last. And I'll share with you, like after she did pass. So my daughter was 11 months old when she passed, right before, 3 weeks before her first birthday. And just a few days after her passing, my daughter and I were outside. We look out on the patio and there's an umbrella with a pole. And I see this grasshopper like hanging out on this pole. And I'll tell you something, my mom and I, we had talks about death. We had talks about her passing. You know, I gave her like it's okay to go because I just didn't want her to suffer anymore. We had all those hard conversations. And I said, show me you're around. Show me you're around. Give me signs, like communicate with me. And I really believe that's her sign.
It's a grasshopper?
It's a grasshopper. And
I
so
love
it hung around
that.
for the longest time. Every day, it's every time we see one now, my daughter and I, there's Grammy, it's Grammy. And
Oh
I
my
looked up what the
gosh.
meaning of that was. And it's about moving forward. They don't jump sideways or backward. They jump forward, moving forward in life. And they also listen to sound vibrations. And something my mom instilled in me at a very young age was about listening to your inner voice. Listen to your inner voice. And like that, just everything made sense in that moment. I'm like, this is it. This is her sign, spirit. And so you can't see in my office, there's a picture of a grasshopper. That story, oh my gosh, Carolina, if I could tell you this one too. I mean, this is where the
I think
magic
this is so important.
for
I think it's so
everyone.
important. My dad sends me his body odor. I smell my, no, literally, I
Oh
smell my dad. It's almost always as I'm going up like a set of stairs, and I can
oh,
smell him. My dad
oh
had
my
this
God.
distinct Old Spice and like
Oh, I love that.
body odor mixed in. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're here. I wish it
Yeah.
was as cute as a grasshopper.
The body. This is for those listening, you're on your path. Like, be open to signs, be open to symbols. Like, there is magic on this path. And I'll tell you this story too. I mean, in a nutshell, we're out at breakfast
Don't
one day.
nutshell it. Don't
Okay.
nutshell
Okay.
it.
Well,
Don't nutshell it,
let me
Sharon.
tell this is a moment that like took the breath out of me. I was like, oh my gosh. So we're out at breakfast. Like, this was maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. We meet the owner. He's showing us some of the art around his restaurant. My daughter was admiring some of the lion art. And so he goes up to me and he's like, oh, do you want to meet the artist? The artist is right over there who's done this lion, right? And so like he's sitting at the bar area. And I go up to him and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to say hi. And my daughter like loves your art. It's so amazing. Nice to meet you. It's kind of like, nice to meet you. Goodbye. Well, we're heading out of the restaurant. He comes up to me and he's like, so I just want to say thank you for coming up. That really touched me. Thank you for acknowledging that and my work. And what other animals does your daughter like? I'm like, oh, she's into tigers. He's like, I don't have a tiger. He goes, but I'm curious, does she like grasshoppers? And I was like, oh my God. Like, of all the animals he could have picked, and he pulls up his phone. He's like, well, I painted this grasshopper. And my tears are welling in my eyes. I'm like dumbfounded. And he's just like, well, I want to give this to you. I feel called to give this to you. And so this is Larry's painting in my office. Met him. We had coffee. He gave it to me. I was like, of all the freaking animals, the grasshopper, really? Does your daughter like grasshoppers? I'm like, right then, I'm like, that's my mom, like communicating with me. She went up to anybody. She just talked to everybody. I like to think I
I'm
have
gonna
that
cry.
quality in me. I have that quality in me where I like to feel like I'm a pretty approachable person. I go up to people. I mean, the most amazing opportunities have come from just reaching out, talking to just random strangers. She did that all the time. And, as you're navigating through your fertility path, that's something that you could take with you is just to stay open to whoever you're going to meet because you never know. I'm so grateful for saying yes to things. Like I was in a book club as we were going through IVF. I said yes to this new book club. I didn't know really anything about it. But through that book club, and there were social gatherings and all kinds of things that really supported me in this sisterhood. I met my Reiki practitioner in that group. I met my friend who was an art therapist in that group. And I was doing her art program. I was doing Reiki. All these things came to me from me saying yes, from me stepping in and leaning forward of like, yeah, follow the calling, follow the nudge, listen to the whispers. We hear that a lot, right? Like listen to that. And getting quiet, as you mentioned earlier, this can be a gift, a pause, really to go in instead of all the doing. Let's just kind of be, right? The people show up, the supports show up. And I think that's one of the things that has gotten kind of taken away on our fertility path is like everybody thinks they need to do more. You probably hear that with clients too, right? I'm not doing enough of this. I need to do more, or take this supplement or do this diet and this protocol or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh.
Or on the other end, if they're going through, like if it didn't take or if the embryo didn't transfer, wasn't successful, I did all the right things. Like that is a common thread of I did all the right things and I can't get pregnant, or I did all the right things and it didn't stick, or I did all the right things and I miscarried.
Yeah.
It's not about doing all the right things. Like the one thing about fertility, it's more about setting the intention, eat healthy, do the healing things, but you said be open and you have to ride a wave. There's no like guarantee in any of it. There's no guarantee, even if like you get a spirit baby messages, or you get a TikTok fertility psychic saying you're going to get pregnant on 222. And like,
yeah,
there's just no guarantees. And knowing that how to be open to receive is the best aspect I can say is about healing. Like you said, be open to receive miracles, be open to say yes, being open to meet people, be open to ask for help or a shoulder, but
and have some fun.
receiving,
Have some fun on your path too, right? Live your life.
be
I'm
open
really
to
passionate
receive
about that.
fun. I'm a human design projector. So for me, the best for projectors, you have to wait for the invitation.
Okay.
So like I have to be wait to like, so for me, like I don't cold DM anyone. One was kind of, I don't like that. It's kind of like sleazy to me. But two is like I have to be invited to have a conversation for it to be abundant. So receiving for me is the most feminine thing you can do.
Yeah.
And no matter what path you are doing for like your fertility treatment plan or what method you're trying to conceive with, you're ultimately receiving a soul. So my best advice is to complement what you're saying is ride the wave and saying yes. Just be open to receive.
Yeah. And like the more open you can be, the more free you feel.
And sometimes it's scary.
Yeah.
What do you recommend? Because you probably work through this in your mastermind, is for people to be open and to receive also means that they need to be vulnerable. And I find that some women are very scared to be vulnerable and are very scared to ask. How do you recommend to navigate that so that they can be more open to say yes, to receive, and to ride the wave?
Yeah. I think getting real with yourself and getting honest, like what is your current state? What is the story you're telling yourself? What is the narrative that's playing in your mind? Like get really honest about, is this my story? Is this someone else's story? This pressure, or like it's a choosing of how good can I really feel, and letting go of expectations, letting go of a plan, letting go of the timeline. Take courage. And it's like the ultimate surrender. You've heard the buzzword surrender a lot.
So pause, because I want to know, because there is something that was really juicy there.
Yeah.
So this is a top 5 thing I see is timeline and control. So I think that would be like definitely a very powerful question to answer is, how do you let go of the timeline? How do you let go enough of control to surrender, to be more open? Because a lot of women have never let go and they've been affirmed in being masculine, or their dysregulated nervous system where they are stuck in output and delivery and hard work. Not that hardworking is bad, but like this overcompensation of other people in life who don't deliver back to them. Like there's this whole ball of things.
Yeah.
But like I find that they overcompensate for others, so they don't know how to ask in order to receive. How does one overcome this?
Big question. Big question. I mean, have the best things come in your life when you plan them all out.
Oh, that's good. I would say I can't plan better than Jesus.
And that's something, I got to interview a guy named Coop Blackson on my podcast recently. He wrote a book called The Magic of Surrender. Highly recommend. And he talks about, in kind of a funny way, your plan cannot be better than God or universe plan. Your plan cannot 100%. Be better.
You also can't mess it up.
You can't mess up. Okay, so it's like, why do we want to add more pressure on ourselves to control every little detail or every little thing? We can have an aim and an intention. That is key. I believe in that. Intention setting is very key. Like have an 100%. Aim. But like to be so specific on every little thing, it's not fun. That's not fun. And you just get disappointed, right? And oftentimes like things don't happen according to plans. So it's again, like it's a choosing. I'm choosing, and that's my rule book number 1 in my book. Hold on, baby. It's like, let go of timeline. Because as anyone who's ridden this path knows, it is not a straight shot. No pun intended. It is like full of detours, full of all kinds of crazy setbacks and curveballs. And I'll tell you an example of like something, if I had tried to control the timeline, because we had one healthy embryo and polyp surgery, scar tissue surgery, my first doctor left the practice, left in limbo, getting ready for a canceled transfer, blood in my uterus was found. So then they're like looking at, okay, and I'm just like, if I had it all in my mind of how it's going to go, I would be miserable. So I chose to ride the wave. So they found that I had some fibroids that had formed. My new doctor found fibroids, and I'm grateful those fibroids were found because it could have, it helped maybe reduce the chance of the embryo not implanting, right? It helped like give us some hope for let's have a clean, clear uterus, right? I mean, what if I had gone through that transfer with our one embryo? What if, right? So I'm grateful for those setbacks and the timeline of me trying to figure out, well, this was when my transfer was going to be. And even my Reiki practitioner was like, kind of afterwards, she was like saying, I'm glad it didn't happen. I think this was meant to be for that setback to happen. So yeah, I mean, let go of the control of a timeline. That is so key. And how to do that is deciding. And I mean, we could talk about this for a while. It's just like letting life lead you. Let life move you instead of you trying to control it. Sure.
For me is that when I look at the clients that are able to move with this concept of letting go of control and actually like implement it and apply it to their lives, there is some type of faith. There's some kind of belief system.
Yeah.
There is some type of ritual of mindfulness. So that might be religion, that might be spirituality, that might be meditation. I have found that it is clients that move through this with much more ease, have a basis of something, they have faith in something that they can deepen or establish trust in. And then they transfer the energy that was maybe fear-based to want to control to now I'm going to decide I'm going to put trust that is going to happen. And they're deepening their trust and faith into the bigger thing. So maybe that's Mother Earth, God, Buddha, whatever the religion is, or they are releasing it to the universe and they're deepening a faith practice or a belief practice or meditation. Do you see any more or higher success? I mean, that's what I've seen with my clients, but a person that is not decided or a person that has not done that development work or they doesn't have anywhere to put it, I feel like they struggle more.
No, this is such a good question. I feel that, yes, spiritual practices are helpful. However, that is to you. It could be as simple as a breathing practice, a meditation
that's
practice,
a great
journaling.
example.
Yeah, journaling. I've been an avid journaler all my life since 10 years old. And that was something that I deeply connected with to pour into with writing, releasing heavy emotions, and also writing to my little embryo, writing to our one. I was doing that. And that's a way that you can connect with this soul that isn't here yet. That helped me to trust in that inner knowing that, yes, I'm going to become a mom in one way or another. I did trust in that deepening of self. And I felt connected to this baby to be. I write about that a lot because it is, as we talked about in the beginning, this going inward, cultivating practices that help you feel good, help you be able to withstand and to be able to expand your capacity to ride when these lows get so low and these setbacks happen, not to completely fall apart, to hold on to yourself. That's the essence of my book. Hold on to you. Hold on, baby. It's like we need to take care of ourselves first and live fully, live life, do the things that light us up. And so, yeah, it's a practice. It's a deepening into self. It's a trusting in the unfolding. And I know that's also challenging for people. How do you trust in something when you can't fully see it? But can you feel it? As you know, I'm about manifestation, and it's about like, can you feel it before it's even here? Can you imagine yourself pregnant? Can you see yourself pregnant? What would that feel like? And for some, that's really hard to get to, you probably see that too with clients, and so it starts with us.
I am so blown away with everything that you've shared in your stories. You've made me cry, and I am so grateful for you. Can you tell us more about like what you offer in your practice?
Yeah. So my website's ivfmanifestingamiracle.com, and I do offer private one-on-one personalized coaching support if that's something whoever is looking for that, kind of being led in a soulful way and there's different packages. So we go deep on these calls, and I've seen dramatic shifts just in a few sessions. So that is an option for people who want to go deep one-on-one. I do have a monthly group call that is something new that I started in January, Moon Magic and Manifestation. That's around the time of the new moon. So bringing in guest experts and a way to connect with other fertility sisters. I'm currently working on a course where people can take, I've led a live program a couple of times, and I've decided, sometimes you repeat yourself in the same things. So I'm finding the themes and all of the ways that tying it in a package that people can kind of follow more on their own, but also to have the option of group support to ask for Q&A, that kind of thing. So that is coming. And I do transfer prep sessions. So if you're looking for a one-time call before your transfer, that was inspired out of a client reaching out to me saying, hey, my transfer is coming up and I'm freaking out. Can you help me? And I do chakra readings with clients, and really the energetic work is so powerful. The mindset energetics, this is really, I feel like, so key, where the doctors are focusing on the medical side, and I really pull more into that spiritual, soulful, energetic side. We need both. We really need both. So
I think it's a great marriage between Eastern and Western. We definitely need the energetic spiritual side.
Yeah. And then of course, resources, my book, Hold On Baby, it's on Amazon, and it's celebrating 4 years this year. I released it not knowing we were going to have a pandemic until 2020, but talking about hold on baby. We didn't know what we were getting into, but my book and then podcast, Soulful IVF. So you've been a guest on, I'll be sharing our conversation, and released that in January of 2023. And I just love it. I just love having these conversations like you with these deep, soulful talks, right?
Right.
We need more
I'm
of
going to
those.
ask you one last question.
Okay.
If you could give one piece of advice to a mama who's ready to give up, who's suffered losses and disappointments, had negative pregnancy tests or failed fertility treatments, what piece of advice would you give them or her?
They're ready to give up. Oh boy. Giving up is not a bad thing. I'll say that. When people say never quit, or what is the saying? It's like, maybe it is never give up. The saying, it's like, sometimes we need to alter our path. And if it's a pause in treatment, people might look at that as giving up. I don't look at that as giving up.
I think giving up is a surrender. I feel like sometimes the surrender allows the true work to begin, and you can have a great, that's when the manifesting can, the miracle flood. I like the flood of miracles and the right things to fall into place actually happens. Because if you're about giving up, I think it's giving up the control or how you thought it would go. Yeah. I think that you're 100%, I would give the same advice.
Giving up, I'm thinking of a client who I supported with for a couple calls. IVF didn't work for her. We did a podcast interview. She decided to let it go. I'm done with treatment. I sent her a couple, a functional medicine practitioner. She was getting to some root level kind of issues and things. She fell pregnant naturally. And it's just it's sometimes you don't know how you're going to become a mom, and it can be even more beautiful than you can imagine. So maybe the plan you thought you had isn't really the one that's meant for you. So allow yourself the space to grieve, to feel it all. So if you're in a place where you're ready to give up, it's again, reframe, what does that mean to you? Give up what? Give up the power maybe you've given to your fertility path. That's key. Don't give your power over to this fertility path. You have a bigger life to live, and it's time to live again. So that's some of the advice that I would give. Live your life, and surround yourself with people who really uplift you, who help you feel good. Do an audit of who's around you, who's in your circle. So take the time for you. And maybe, like you said, and we talked about, it's like a deepening into uncovering more of who you are, and stay open to the path that can be revealed to you.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Thank you for the honor of sharing space with you. Really, you're one of my favorite guests I've ever had.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Until next time, my friends, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Send me a DM of what you would like to see next on the podcast. We love having you. And my gift to you is go to the show notes. Not only will you see Lisa's information, but you'll also be gifted 3 days free inside the Make a Baby membership, where you can learn Reiki for yourself and also have live womb healing calls and community with me and all the rest of the women who are trying to conceive a Reiki baby. Until next time, let the Reiki flow.
Frustrated being told you are fine by your doctor, exhausted from negative pregnancy tests every month, wanting a deeper connection on your fertility journey with your spirit baby? The Make a Baby membership is exactly what you need. Using Reiki will help you connect to your spirit baby, heal the trapped emotions blocking fertility, and support you in our life-changing community. With over 90 Reiki babies, we invite you to try the Make a Baby membership for free. Check it out in the show notes. Let's get you pregnant.